Let's talk the club. One more thing, like, subscribe, and share. Come on, let's talk the club. Woo!
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Cutler here on the Let's Talk to Cutler YouTube channel, the Let's Talk to Cutler virtual book club, and Let's Talk to Cutler platform, where we spend about 1,800 seconds together every Tuesday. And I'm so delighted that you all choose to spend this time. You could be doing other things. You could be spending your time with other people and doing so many other things. But I'm so thankful that you opted to spend this time with me. I'm only going to be here for 1,800 seconds. I don't want to bother anybody's patience, but listen, just in case you didn't know, the reason I show up on these Tuesdays is because, hello, my friend, the reason I show up these Tuesdays is because it is my hope, it is my desire, it is my prayer to offer something that is inspirational, something that is motivational, and something that even challenges us to show up better, or to show up our best selves, even in the worst of situations. Life is happening. Life is spinning on a dime. Things are happening every day, day in. As my grandma will say, day in and day out, things are topsy-turvy in one way this day and one way the next day. And so it behooves us to make sure that we know how to show up our best selves, even in the worst of situations, because as one writer said, these are the best of times. It was Charles Dickens in one of his classics, but as he was writing, he wrote, these are the best of time. It was the best of times and it was the worst of times. And certainly for us, we can juxtapose those two and see them coexisting, that these are the best of times, but they're also in some respects the worst of times. And so I want to encourage us to hold on and to make sure that our foundations are solidified. That's it. I want to make sure that our foundations are solidified. And I want to talk about how to handle life storms. How do we handle the storms of life? And really what brings that to mind is the fact that the country is now, certainly a huge portion of the country is bracing itself for another winter storm. And so I want to talk about how to handle life storms, but not the physical storms, not really the snowstorms, the rainstorms, the thunderstorms, those sorts of things. But I use those analogously and talk about those. But it's really, how do we handle life's storms? Well, before I get into that, again, I want to say thank you. And if this is your first time, again, it's inspiration, motivation, challenge, just to show up better and show up our best selves, even worse situations. But beyond that, I want to invite you, if you have not done so already, to make sure that you subscribe. Why? Because I want to see all my friends. Just go ahead and subscribe. And then after you subscribe, click on the notification bell, because it lets you know whenever I've gone live, like I'm here now. This is me live and in living color. It lets you know whenever I've gone live and when I've uploaded new content. And besides, I just want to see my friends. I don't know where the button is on your device. I don't know if it's down there, up there, over there, or over there, but wherever it is on your device, then make sure you subscribe and then click on the notification bell so that you know when I'm here, and then you can allow me to come into whatever space you choose. But I do thank you. Thank you to those of you who have been with me for the long haul. By the way, go and tell somebody, as we are preparing to share in conversation, go and tell somebody, come on, let's talk to Cutler. Let's see what the man has to say, and let's talk back to him. I am so delighted to see so many of you already over in the chat. I see a few others who have signed on and logged in, but you're not over to the chat. So come on over to the chat. Say hi to everybody. If you choose not to, that's absolutely fine. I respect the fact that there are some people who like to go into what I call stealth mode, because you just might like to show up and enjoy the content, but not necessarily go into the chat. I can totally understand that. But I want to do a shout out to the LTTC VIPs, those of you who are over in the chat, particularly the ones that I saw signing in first. Now, again, if I don't call your name, it's because I didn't see you pop in as one of the first three. All right. But on my end, the people that I see and that I saw chiming in or logging in first is Queen Nita. Queen Nita is Kimberly Montoya and Annie Cutler. So thank you all for being the LTTC VIPs for this evening. If the truth be told, you're all VIPs in my book. But I want to talk about how to handle life storms. Let me know if the context really makes sense, if the context that I'm putting this conversation in, let me know if you are in an area where there is the threat of a winter storm hitting your area, just so that we can, so I'll know that I'm sort of in the space in terms of casting the right example, because this is going to be, as the meteorologist is saying, it's going to be a huge storm. It's going to have widespread impact, and and think about what you've done to prepare for this storm. I grew up on the I grew up on the coast uh, of North Carolina. I remember growing up, and there was always hurricane season for us, not so much tornado season. So as I look at what's going on in my home state these days, and I see more and more tornadoes, that's really not what I grew up with. I grew up with hurricane. We actually call it hurricane season. And so we would always brace ourselves for hurricanes. And if you were on low-lying ground, if you're on lowland or below sea level, then you were encouraged to go to an area in my home county that was above sea level. And so that's what we did when it came to hurricanes. Not only that, but people would board up the windows and that sort of thing. They would put really plywood over their windows, and they would make sure that they didn't have any pots out on the porch and that sort of thing. And so we would prepare for storms. And of course, there are some storms, and I'm getting ready to go somewhere now, because there are some storms that we know are coming. There are some storms that repeatedly show up. I'm not talking about hurricanes and tornadoes now, but just as an analogy, just as an example, there are some storms that always show up repeatedly, just as hurricanes show up repeatedly, and there was a hurricane season. There are seasons in some of our lives where storms just show up. It doesn't mean that you've done anything wrong. It doesn't mean that you've done anything nefarious. It doesn't mean that you've done anything bad. But it doesn't mean that you invite all these, these imbroglios happening in your life. No. It doesn't mean any of that. What it means is that life is happening. And in some of our lives, the storms just show up. And they show up for a multitude of reasons, just like the hurricanes show up, and they show up because they're on track to show up. They're on path to show up, so that we would rehearse what it is we need to do to stay safe. We would rehearse what we had to do to get to a shelter in place sort of situation, or to get literally to a shelter. We would have to rehearse what to do when we were in moments of lack, when we were without electricity, when we were without a number of things. We did not get a lot of snow when I was growing up, but when those storms would show up, it taught us how to do or how to make do in confined spaces. Make do, that's a Southern phrase. It taught us how to make do in confined spaces with limited resources, with limited things. Storms show up quite often. When they show up, they don't show up just to teach you a lesson, but storms show up so that we can teach ourselves a lesson. The storm doesn't show up to teach you, but the storm shows up so that you can teach yourself. Let that sink in for just a moment. Let it show up for just a moment. That storms show up. So yes, some of them will show up repeatedly. Some of them will show up on schedule. But then I tell you, there are some other storms that just come out of nowhere. Do you know that some storms actually give birth to other storms? For example, a hurricane can possibly give birth to tornadoes. Oh yeah, it's possible. And then you have rainstorms that can give birth to mudslides. You have earthquakes that can give birth to tidal waves. It just happens like that, you all. It just happens. And there's some storms in our life that seem to give birth to other storms. How many of you have ever been in a situation where you said, oh my goodness, as soon as I thought I was getting out of that storm, here comes another storm. And again, I'm not talking about tornadoes, I'm in hurricanes, but I'm talking about the storms of life, the storms of depression, the storms of doubt, the storms of low self-esteem, the storms of everybody in your business, the storm of financial woes, the storms of emotional woes, the storms of educational woes, the storms of mental woes, the storms of spiritual woes, the storms of physical woes, the storms of psychological woes. A lot of times we have those storms, and you realize that those storms may give birth to other storms. A lot of times financial storms will give birth to emotional storms. And sometimes they would then give birth to physical storms. But I want us to talk about how do we handle the storms of life. There are some storms that we can prepare for or that we can anticipate. And then there are some storms, you all, that we just cannot anticipate. But I encourage us all, we need to be prepared to handle the storms of life. Why do you say that, Cutler? Because storms are life-changing. Storms are so life-changing, and however you define and however you categorize and classify your storm, that is totally up to you. I'm not here to define storms, but I'm telling you that storms, however you look at them, how you classify them, storms can be life-changing. They can be life-changing. They can cause your life to turn on a dime. One event can change the entire trajectory and the direction of your journey in a moment, in an instant. But we have to be prepared, you all. We have to be prepared to handle these turbulent events. Tipsy-topsy and just turbulent. Yeah, turbulent, like the wind blowing and all the dynamics. We have to be prepared to handle. We have to be prepared to handle these events. And when is the best time? When is the best time to prepare? When there is no storm. A lot of times, have you ever seen people, or do you know people, perhaps maybe this is how some of us operate, but have you ever seen people who wait to prepare for a storm while the storm is going on? I get it. Sometimes people they have limited resources. I certainly, God knows I grew up with limited resources. And so I get it that sometimes people will they do what they have to do. But there are other times when people just wait and they may hear about the storm coming. And they just may wait until the storm actually gets there. And then they decide, I'm just going to ride it out. And then I just get out and they start working in the middle of the storm. But the time to prepare for a storm is not when the storm gets here. I'm not talking about hurricanes. I'm not talking about weather, but I'm talking about the storms of life. Don't wait until you find yourself in crisis to develop a crisis management plan. Don't wait until something happens to identify a strategy for dealing with it. One of the things that I applaud my mother for is while she was taking care of my grandmother, from time to time, I would say, Ma, what's going to happen if? What are you going to do if? Because we knew that there was a storm that was inevitable. The death of a loved one is a storm. And we need to, and I think sometimes we have blinders on, but we need to take the blinders off and say, you know what, a storm or that storm is coming. And I need to make sure that I'm prepared. So I would ask my mom, so what are you going to do if you walk to my grandmother's room and one day she's just not breathing, her eyes are closed, they just don't open anymore? It is about being prepared for storms, you all. There are some storms we know that are coming. And so what are you saying this evening, Cutler? The first thing I'm saying is don't ignore the storms that you know that are coming. Don't hide your head in sand like an ostrich and pretend that it's not going to come. There were some people, some family members who would visit and they would look at my grandmother's condition. And while she was really amazingly and excellently taken care of, the fact of the matter is that she was approaching 100 years old and her body was frail. We knew she wasn't going to stay with us always. And there were some people, some family members who I don't know if they were in denial or what, you all. But one of the things that my mind, the reality click, said, you know what, be prepared because an emotional storm is going to come. What are you going to do? Are you going to be prepared for it? I'm just suggesting to us, when you know a storm is coming, be prepared. Just be prepared for it. Don't act like it's not coming. Oh, we don't talk about those things. Oh, that conversation is taboo. We don't like to talk about that. The storm is coming. Can I tell you that's why some storms will cripple some of us, because we see it coming and we turn our heads and we act like it's not coming? It's the storm. You need to say to yourself, there are some storms that I know are coming and I need to talk about them now. I need to develop a storm readiness plan. Some of us see ourselves dwindling in certain areas. Make sure you have a storm readiness plan. Again, what am I saying? The time to prepare for the storm is not when the storm gets here, but while there is no storm. What does that look like? Well, let's talk about what it looks like. Let's talk about really what we do in some of these natural storms, hurricanes and tornadoes and those sorts of things, snowstorms. One of the things that we do, one of the first things that we do is what? Secure our homes. Oh my God. I'm getting ready to go somewhere with this. When we know a storm is coming, what do? We secure our homes. Why not secure your proverbial home when you know that emotional, psychological, and all those storms are coming? When you know the storms are coming, secure your homes. What does it look like, Cutler? Well, when a storm is coming, what are some of the things we do? We close the windows and the doors. I hope this is going to help somebody. God knows I'm trying to help save somebody's life tonight. When we see and know the storm is coming, learn how to secure your home. What does that mean? It means everything in my immediate surrounding. I'm not talking about natural storms, but I'm talking about the storms of life. You know, the kind that we sometimes sing about, oh, the storm came, the storm, I told the storm to go away. And sometimes the storms, they just show up. And for some of us, I don't care how many times we tell the storm to go away, it's not going to go away. And so what do we need to do? We need to secure our home. I need to secure my heart. I need to secure my soul. I need to secure my mind. I need to secure my spirit. I need to secure those who are around me, to make sure that mentally and psychologically we are okay. So that means I have to close some windows and close some doors. That means when I see and know the storm coming, I have to shut some things out. Excuse me, but maybe not just shut some things, but maybe I need to shut some people out. Because in the midst of a storm, I cannot allow the rubbish to come into my heart and my soul and my mind. So I have to do what an old song used to say: be careful of the eyes, what you see. Be careful of the ears, what you hear. You have to make sure when you know storms are coming, and you need to guard your heart, yourself, and your loved ones and those people around you, your village, your community, your space. Close the windows and the doors. Just don't let some things in. And what else do we do during the storm? We gather all of those loose items and we bring them inside. So everything that's hanging and dangling on the periphery of my life that I might need, I bring inside. I bring my joy inside. I bring my peace inside. I bring my contentment inside. I bring my ability to see things objectively inside. I bring my optimism inside. I bring my hope. I bring those things inside. I secure my home by bringing those things inside. Why? Because the rubbish is going to come. The wind is going to hit. It's going to hit and beat up on the outside of my house. The rain is going to come. The storms are coming. And just as you prepare for these natural storms, prepare for these spiritual, emotional, these proverbial storms. Secure your home, close the windows and the doors, and bring inside any loose items that you're going to need. And what else do we do? Well, you all tell me if these are things that you do during the storms. You close the windows, you secure your home by closing the windows and the doors, you bring inside any loose items, and sometimes you go out and you clear your yard. Something that could blow around and damage your home, you clear it out. Why not do that when we know the storms of life are coming? Let me keep a clean yard so that I don't have a whole lot of garbage and rubbish around that can blow and hit my house and damage my house, that could blow and hit my windows and break my windows. Do that in life. The same way you do it, the same way we do it for natural storms, let's do it for these other proverbial storms of life that come our way. Secure your home, your heart, your spirit, your soul, your mind, the people in your space, your family, your close nuclear people. Make sure that your home is secured. Sometimes you close your windows and doors to keep things in, but God knows you close them to keep things out. And the valuables that you need that are hanging around inside or just outside on the periphery, your hope, your joy, your peace, your love, you bring those inside. Then you clear your yard, make sure there's no rubbish, no garbage, none of that stuff around that can damage the exterior of your house. Because guess what? If it damages the exterior of your house so much, it's going to cause trouble on the interior of your house. I hope I'm talking to somebody this evening. I want us to be prepared for the storms, you all. I want us to be prepared for the storms because they are coming. Just like these natural storms are coming, so are these other proverbial storms that I'm talking about. And what is something else that we do? I remember, and you all tell me if people still do it in your area. One of the things, when you hear a snowstorm is coming, go to the supermarket. Go to the supermarkets. Go to the hardware stores. And when you go to the supermarket and go to the hardware stores, don't you see the shelves are clean? The shelves are clean. People have gone to the hardware stores. They're buying batteries. They're buying flashlights. They're buying transistor radios, and they're just buying all of this stuff. They're making sure that they have emergency kits. They're going to the supermarket. They're making sure they buy non-perishable food, and they're making sure that they buy water. People who are taking medication, they're making sure that their prescriptions are filled. People who are dealing with just over-the-counter drugs, they're making sure they get their over-the-counter medications. I mean, people are you make sure that you have an emergency kit. What are you saying to me, Cutler? And there are people who then would even go to the ATM to make sure they withdraw cash because they don't want to deal with a credit card. They don't want to deal with checks, but they make sure that they have cash on hand. What are you saying, Cutler? I'm saying when you know the storms are coming, make sure that you gather the supplies that you need. You know the storms are coming. What does that look like, Cutler? Gather the supplies that I need. Because during the storm, I may have to sit silently. And I may need something that I can just meditate on, that I can just think about, something that is pure and motive and clean and genuine. Something that contains virtue. I need an emergency kit so that when I'm sitting in silence, I have something to feed my heart, my mind, and my soul. Just like people go and get those non-perishable food items. I mean, don't we see milk and bread? Now, those two are perishable. But they would get canned foods and they would get dry foods. I'm just saying, when you know the storm is coming, what does that really look like? It means you can say to people, a storm is coming in my life. And I may need some encouragement. I may need some help. I may need my village to stand up. I may need my community to support me. You start creating that emergency kit. In this situation, if you see me with my head hanging down, I need somebody to just lift my head for a moment. If when the storm is coming, I just may feel like I'm stuck. I may need somebody to push me or to pull me or to walk along beside me. You create an emergency kit of people that you know, love, believe in, and trust, and people who believe in and invest in you and trust you. Make sure that you gather your supplies. The same way we will get cash out of the ATM, make sure that those things that are valuable to you, that you have access to them. Make sure, and one of the other things that people used to make sure their cars were filled up, make sure that you are filled up with the things that are going to sustain you. And so let me fill my heart with merriment and joy and laughter, because this might be a storm that challenges all of those things. So not only must we secure our home, then we have to make sure that we gather the right supplies, and then make sure that you create a plan. Create a storm management plan. I know the storm is not going to last always. Let me have a plan for getting out of this. And sometimes when you plan an emergency evacuation route to get outside of the storm, you have to do the same thing with these other storms. You know what? I have to make sure I look for the light at the end of the tunnel. I have to make sure I look for the moments when the door is going to open. I have to make sure that I'm prepared for those moments when I can escape. And when I can escape, then I am going to do just that. Sometimes we stay in things because for some reason they give us this kind of high, and they create this codependence, and we like the things that the storm does, and we like the things that we like the things that the storm will do. But can I say this to you? Create an emergency plan so that when you see a way out of that storm, you take the way out, you run out, you bust the walls down, you dance right on out, you hop out, you skip out, you move, you get out, you get out of the storm. Don't just stay in there because the storm has now become familiar. A lot of times we sit in those storms because now I'm used to the sound, I'm used to the noise, I'm used to the challenges, I'm used to the uneasiness of the storms. But you were not created to live in a storm. You were created to speak to and or manage the storm. Some of us live in storms, but you were not created to live in a storm. You were created to either speak to or manage your storm. So again, storms are coming. Let's make sure that we're ready. We are here. Let's put this in context. We're here in February. We've seen the handwriting on the wall. We've seen the storms. And so what do we need? Make sure, let me make sure that I'm very clear. Make sure that you have something that will distract you from the storm for just a moment. Whether it's a life of meditation and prayer or reading, whatever the case may be. And of course, you know, those are the things for me. Make sure that you have something. You have a daily habit that will distract you from the storm. Don't watch the news about the storm all day. What am I saying? I'm just not talking about these natural storms. Don't sit and focus on your storm all day, but create a daily habit that distracts you from the storm just for a little while. That gives you a moment of reprieve, a moment of escape. Make sure that when the storms are taking place, you have built, really make sure, and we've talked about making sure that you check your circles and your space, your village, your community. Make sure that you've built a support system of close friends to help you deal with the storms that come in your life. And for me, I can tell you all, most of you who know me and know me well enough, who have been with me for a while, understand that when it comes to this whole notion of building a support system of close friends, people that I can rely on during the storm, for me, it becomes a community of faith. That's just what it is for me. And then in the midst of these storms, I carve out a bubble, and I create a place of peace, a place of solitude where I can escape for just one moment. Because there has to be, for me, I'm just talking about for me, there has to be a moment and a space where I can escape and go and get some peace and go and get some solitude. And I don't care whether it's your front porch, your back porch. I don't care whether it's the shore and you're walking on the beach. I don't care if you're bicycle riding, whatever it may be. Create a space. It may be on your bed. It may be sitting in a chair. It may just be a relaxing moment when you wake up, but you don't get up and you just stay there for a moment. Create a space, a place of peace and solitude, you all. We ignore that when we have the power and the wherewithal to do that. I'm telling you, these are the things that you can do. Thank you, McDonough. These are the things that you can do so that you can get ready, so you can stay ready, so that you don't have to get ready. I'm telling the stuff that we can do. I'm just trying to help us, you all. I am trying to help us because I want us to be prepared, because God knows the storms are coming. And then when the storm actually gets here, may I say to you one of the things, and I think I said this some time ago, when the storm is coming, one of the things that you don't do is give up in the midst of the storm. I just need to put that out there. We have seen some storms over these past few days, these past few weeks, and more storms are coming. And some of the storms are going to give birth to other storms. But can I say to everybody who's listening, everybody who would catch this replay, do not give up in the midst of a storm. No, storms are not fun. They are not pleasant. In fact, if the truth be told, they can be scary, they can be unpredictable, and they can be frightening. But what you cannot do is give up. You've got to keep moving in the midst of the storm, because your movement is a matter, your movement could be a matter of saving your life and or somebody else's. You have got to, you have got to make sure that you resolve within yourself. I cannot give up. I cannot stop. I cannot become sedentary in the midst of this storm. I've got to keep moving. Why must I keep moving? I must keep moving because if I don't, I lose traction. I lose ground. I don't know what's ahead. Maybe the rain is coming so tumultuously and turbulently no, I think I just made that word up. Well, turbulent is a word, but it may be coming so tumultuously until I really can't see what's ahead of me. But can I tell you, you don't stop in the midst of the storm. I remember, and I got to go, but I remember once we were driving. We weren't. My mother was driving. I often tell stories about my mother. I know it. I get it. But we were coming back. we had gone north. We were driving back south. Mom was driving back south, and there was a storm, and people were pulling over because it was raining just that hard. And what I remember my mother doing was slowing down, pulling in the slow lane, but we kept moving. And I remember thinking, why aren't we stopping? And later on, I think I may have asked my mom, why didn't we stop? And her answer may not have been this sophisticated, but this is what I got from it. It's going to rain whether we're here or whether we're moving. I just helped myself all over again. It's going to rain whether we sit here or whether we keep on moving. Keep moving, even in the midst of your storms. Keep moving when life throws you curveballs. Keep moving. Keep moving, whatever it takes, so that you can see your way, find your way, make your way. Turn your lights on, whatever that means for you, so that you can see. Turn your windshield wipers on so that you can clear the way just enough to just get a reprieve just for a few seconds. I got a few seconds, and that means I can move a few seconds ahead. The storms are coming. Let's be prepared for them. Some storms will show up. Others will give us warning. I just wanted to talk about how to handle the storms in life, because they're coming. Thank you all for allowing me to share this space with you all. Thank you for whatever space you've allowed me to come. I appreciate it. Yeah, let's stay ready. Yvonne Jones, I see you saying, yes, we are under threat. Well, you all take care, my friend. Be safe in this natural storm. Prepare and be safe. Get your supplies, get your emergency kit. Make sure that you have a community of people who know how to get in contact with you so that people can check on you and know that you're okay, and you can check on somebody else and know that they're okay. The storms of life come just like the natural storms. Let's be prepared. Let's know how to handle them. Thank you all. Let's keep doing what we do. Let's keep building community. Let's keep maintaining connectivity. Stay safe. I mean that. Stay safe and stay sane. Keep your heads up, keep your hopes up, and know that from my heart to yours, there is and always will be so much love. Until the next time I see you all, go and tell somebody. Come on. Let's talk to Cutler. Good night, everybody.